Okay, friends, today we're going to talk about relationships and the connection charts so that you have an idea when you see two people and you're wondering, what is that trigger? What's going on there? Why are they not getting along? What's happening? Well, most of the time, let's be honest, there's a lot of not self happening. However, we're going to walk through all the mechanics today so that you can get a deeper understanding. So first off, it's all about type. So you want to look and see how they come together. Primary ingredient is type, always. You want to see how do they mesh together, what's going on. And you really want to have a deeper conversation with your clients around, did they actually get into this correctly or incorrectly into this relationship? Okay. So most of the time we fall in love with what the person isn't versus what they are. And we want to really help our clients understand the not self and the self. That is the critical piece of human design. So we might have fallen in love with their not self. So what they are not, what they are conditioned to be, what they pretend to be, what they hope to be, and fear about possible change. And the only cure is to be yourself. So you're going to need to educate them on the type. So generators can ask, but they need to be asked in return. Types need to honor each other so that they're in an actual, real, true relationship. If you allow someone to be who they are and they allow you to be yourself, that's truly what love is. Anything else is torture. And this is what the conditioned mind does. The conditioned mind tortures us and around what we're not, instead of allowing for the clean, crisp mind to accept who we are. So if both partners are not participating, then there's going to be problems. So in human design, there is nothing that cannot work. There's nothing that cannot work, okay? It all comes down to awareness. That's it. That's all there is. However, we're going to walk through all the different nuances so that you get a better understanding of this. So first, you want to look at centers. What's defined, what's undefined. And then you want to look at the conditioning of those centers as well. So if someone has the ego center defined and someone does not, and they come into a relationship, that undefined ego must be aware that that other person has a defined ego. They do not need to prove themselves to anyone. And they don't need to make promises to their partner outside of their decision-making. Now, the defined ego, they just get to show up, and all the defined ego does is it actually is designed to prove itself to itself. That's it, not to anybody else, okay? So are there any same centers coming together? So emotional, unemotional. This is really interesting because most relationships become an emotional relationship. Splenic and emotional relationships, you want to look at those two because they are awareness centers. Now, let's just take a look at the solar plex. Most relationships are emotionally defined, so there's no truth in the now. It takes time for clarity of what the relationship is for most couples. So the tension, the pain, the disappointment are all byproducts of being in someone else's life. We get it all. So over time, you see what it is. So if it's emotionally defined, there's going to be time periods that move by. And here's what's so fascinating to me. I see this often, that an emotionally unemotional comes in with an emotional. And that emotional person, it takes them years and years and years to actually see what the relationship is. And this is just my experience with couples. Oftentimes, I see these couples divorce. And why? Because that emotional person never had clarity before they stepped into the relationship. Okay. So now I'm not saying that this is always, I'm just saying you need to have your clients be aware of this. That if they are emotional, there are going to be moments where they're getting more clarity as they move through the relationship. That's all there is. That's all it is. That's all it is for their entire life. They're getting more clarity. Okay. And I just want to set a caveat here too. These slides were from the International Human Design School. So I am not reinventing the wheel. I'm using the material that I learned as a student, and so that you get the actual material, okay? Split definitions, this is where we can have communication issues or compatibility issues. So they might have different digestion processes. Most likely they do, your people in the couples. So single with a split or a triple split person, that single split person feels like they can digest life on their own. The split and the triple split needs to actually have other people around them, and quad splits, to digest their food. I know that sounds crazy, but it actually helps them digest their food. And this is something that, if you want to know about the digestion part, go to the PHS aspect, and where I talk about all the wellness. So natural, comfortable with the same type of split definitions. So if there is just a simple split, they feel very comfortable with somebody else with a simple split, because it's like there's this knowing that they need to have other people in their lives to digest the relationship, to have other people come in, to have others enter into the relationship so they can learn from others. I'm not talking about sexually. I'm just saying that they're possibly, okay? So you have a couple, and maybe the wife has a really, really good friend, and she is over a lot at the house because that friend actually became this go-to to bridge the split. Now, all of a sudden in the relationship, that entrance of that other person allows for the digestion to happen, allows for new things to be brought into the relationship, okay? Now, splits can feel like they are under pressure to hurry if they're with a single split person or single definition person, because that single definition person is actually self-contained, okay? They're self-contained. Okay, does that make sense? If it makes sense, say yes. Yes, this makes sense. I understand it. If not, we'll have conversations around it. Okay, so you just want to be aware. What is their split? Where is the split? Does the other person in the relationship actually bring the gate or the channel that solves that split? If so, that relationship might be a little bit stronger. If it doesn't, there's times where in that relationship, the other person, that split definition, doesn't feel as though they are, quote unquote, brought as one. Okay. Circuitry. So if you look at the chart, there's dominance. So one person has the whole channel and the other person has none of that channel. Then there's the electromagnetic. Each partner has a harmonic gate at each end. So it makes a channel inside the relationship. Okay. Makes a channel inside the relationship. There's also compromise, where one person just has a gate, the other person has the entire channel. This is probably the most difficult aspect, and we're going to get into that. Now, again, I want to really have you understand, there's nothing that is too hard at all, as long as there's awareness. And then companionship, where they have the exact same channel, okay, exact same channel, they both have it. So they feel like they have this companion energy. Now we're going to get into the terminology, where we talk about the 9 and 0, 8 and 1. These are the relationship rhymes. So 8 no's have nowhere to go. So all centers are defined. It's an enclosed entity. It's absorbed in each other's lives. There's no place for others to enter in. And I'm going to give you a caveat here, unless they're split definition. So they're locked into that bliss or that anguish, or locked into that not self. So definitions could be a single. I've seen lots of these, 9 and 0 single, when they come together. And when that happens, it is that enclosed entity. That single split 9 and 0 is that enclosed entity. Now, if you have a 9 and 0 with a split or a triple split or a quad split, that's not exactly true that it's an enclosed entity. Why? Because that enclosed entity now has these splits where people can come into the relationship and encompass that in a whole new way. People can come in to that relationship, and because they're coming into that relationship, now all of a sudden there's this different dynamic. Even though all the centers are there, it's not fully enclosed, okay? So now we have the 8 and 1, have some fun. So this is the window that they can go in and out of. So others can come in and others can go out and actually have fun. So the open center represents a place to explore together. Okay, it's a place to explore together. So for example, if they have the head center as the one center that is undefined, well, inspiration, the two of them will want to go out into the world and find inspiration for their relationship. Maybe it is the root center, and the root center is all about really this super solid foundational drive that we have in humanity. So maybe they go out and figure out ways to reduce stress in the relationship, because that's really what that's what the root center holds. So they get to go out and have fun together. The 7 and 2, they've work to do. There's 2 open centers there, okay? So there's 2 different places to go out and explore. They experience life alone or with others, and they will work it out. They come back together and they will work out whatever it is in the relationship. So if it's materialism, if it is the sacral center, which is really about work and the life force and the energy field and being really committed, or being in a different flow, how does the relationship nurture each other? Do they honor each other's personal power? How is the growth moving through? Is it chaos, or are they actually able to come together and create a process that's non-chaotic? Okay. Again, all things that you get to look at when you are moving through these things. And I'm kind of speeding through this because I want to bring you some deeper examples as well, so that you can understand it at a more profound level. So 6 and 3, better to be free. So there's 3 ways, more ways, many ways to escape the relationship. The relationship feels very free, and you enjoy it for what it is. So this is what my husband and I have, is a 6 and 3 relationship. This is not our charts. I will show it to you in a bit here. However, he gets to do what he wants to do. I get to do what I want to do. And then at the end of the day, we come together and just have a conversation around it. And there's never, how do I want to say? It doesn't feel confining, which is very good, because I also have the channel of cycles, which is the 5342. And the 53 absolutely does not like to be confined. That's just a tidbit. I might have shared that in other videos as well. And then we have the 5 and 4, not a relationship anymore. Now, I wouldn't say that it's not a relationship. There's not much holding this relationship together. It may not work. However, here's what's really important is, again, the caveat here is it doesn't matter about any of this if you've entered incorrectly and there's pure awareness. Okay. So I know relationships like this, and they've been together for a very, very long time, like years and years and years. So again, it isn't that there isn't a relationship. It's just a totally different relationship because they have different ways to go out and explore in the world on their own, and then come back to the relationship if it is correct. Okay. Now let's look at the electromagnetic, because I find that this is one that everybody's very interested in. So what can happen is one person has a gate, the other person has a gate, and when they come together, there's the channel. So this can be fireworks or not. It's hot and cold, love, hate. The spark that keeps it going, okay, is this love, hate, hot, cold. You may move back and forth from one side to the other. Okay, one is not enough. Many becomes intense. So one is not enough, meaning, okay, because you both have gates on either side, or your clients have gates on either side, doesn't necessarily mean that that gate, because it's a hanging gate, could be a dormant gate, it could be an active gate, depending on if the center is defined or not. What can happen here is, of course, those gates wants to go out and they want to explore different people, like different energy types. And again, I'm not talking about, like, maybe it is a sexual relationship, but I'm just talking about they want to go out, like have coworkers, have, maybe they go to coffee or yoga or workshops on their own, whatever it is, so that electromagnetic is actually gaining wisdom from other relationships. So in the harmonic conditioning, it's like, what's mine, what's yours? You try and take on your partner's role a lot of times when there's an electromagnetic. And this is where the heat comes. We want the conditioning and we think it's us. Okay, so in this example here, the person with the 59 wants to be the one that creates the barriers in the relationship, but that's actually the 6's job. Okay, so resonance and harmony, there's this flow, okay? Flows smoothly as long as you stay on your side. The dissonance is when there's friction or tension, because maybe the 6 wants to be, super sexual, and then the 59 creates barriers, and now all of a sudden the roles have been switched, and it can get very discontorted in the relationship. Circuitry and around dominance. So dominance is about no surprise. So one person brings that channel. Both people in the relationship know that's a dominance channel. That's what they have. It's something that your partner has and really knows nothing about, because it's not a part of their design. Okay, so they learn to appreciate it rather than resist it. So dominance is one of those aspects that actually is very embraced in the relationship, let's just say. Companionship. This is where two people have the exact same channel. Now, what it says here is that the genes want to ignore companionship, and they want to come together in a relationship. Like the genes itself, they want the opposite. Okay, however, here's what's really quite interesting in my experience with couples is the after the first relationship where they have children, and it can be quite a volatile relationship, but because most of the time human beings are entering in incorrectly. They have children, okay? And then that relationship, they move out of the relationship, they divorce out of the relationship after their genes have come together and created these human beings, okay? And then in their second relationship, where it's not about creating more human beings, but it's actually about companionship. They want to have a companion for the rest of their life, someone they can do things with, someone they can feel comfortable with, move through life with. That's where I see these companionship charts come together more profoundly. Now, I'm not saying that if you have a companionship chart that you can't have children. That's not what I'm saying. It is rare to find that in a couple who has children and they stay together. That's just very rare. However, the companionship, most of the time, what I've seen is that it comes together after they've had children with someone else, okay? Compromise, this is probably the hottest spot, okay? Because one person has the entire channel and the other person just has a gate. So this is usually what ends a relationship because someone's always compromising to the other person's strength or channel, okay? It's a hot spot. It's the illusion of companionship and attraction, okay? It's an illusion of companionship because the other person actually doesn't have the full channel. Surrender is the only option. Accept it or leave it. So this chafes and rubs against you, and person being compromised suffers. So for example, let's look at this, right? So we have someone with the full channel, the 2212. Well, this is a very romantic channel. This is a very melancholic channel. So the melancholy, the ups and downs of this person's, the spike wave of this person's emotionality will always supersede the 12th gate in the other person. It will always supersede it. So it'll all be about their emotions versus this person's capacity of the 12 to converse and talk and share their emotional experiences. The other person will intercede or interject into that. Okay? Compromise. Find your own expression outside the relationship. Compromise means you are really going to have to operate as yourself in order for this to work. Resonance is very difficult, or is less difficult. Dissonance is very uncomfortable. So the unconscious compromise, you don't know what you're dealing with. So you want a balance of these compromises. So once you understand it and see it, then all of a sudden it becomes easier to accept it. Okay, I'm going to share a story here. I have the full 4521. So I have the full money channel or management channel. My sister has the 21. When I go to her place, I naturally like take dominion over places. That's what I do. When I walk into a room or I walk into a space or I enter in, there's this capacity for me to teach, take responsibility, manage the tribe. That's just naturally what I do. So when I go to my sister's house, because she only has a 21, remember the 21's all about control, she feels like she's out of control because I walk in and naturally my energy takes charge. Okay. So now that we understand that, we don't have to, there's no push-pull. What I can do is just honor her in her own space and know that she wants to take control of her own space. So it's about the communication aspect, right? And asking her questions to pull out the answers from her response mechanism to find out if it's okay, if I, whatever, maybe it like, because I love being in the kitchen. So can I cook supper tonight? And then she gets to respond. If it's a no, it's a no. I'm okay. I'll sit back. Okay. So compromise is all about communication. So remember, okay, if you enter into a relationship correctly, those areas of compromise are not going to be places that destroy the relationship. They actually are going to end up being the most dynamic places in the relationship. But that's like me saying that the emotions can be aware. It's quite a journey to get there. You really do have to be awake to be able to get to that space where you understand the emotionality, where you understand the compromise. It's so critical to that awareness aspect. Okay. So now I just want to pull you into dissonance and harmony. Resonance is all about the same line. So if I am a 1-3, I resonate with 1-3s. That's just what it is. Harmony is the 1 has a harmony with the 4. Okay. The 1 has a harmony with the 4. The 2 has a harmony with the 5. And the 3 has a harmony with the 6. Now, here's what's also important. The 2 and the 1 actually have a dissonance. The 5 and the 3 have, or sorry, erase that. The 4 and the 5 have a dissonance. The 3 and the 2 have a dissonance. The 6 and the 5 have a dissonance. Okay. So there is going to be spaces that feel very harmonic, and then there's going to feel spaces that do not feel harmonic. They feel like there's dissonance. So for example, as a 1-3, I naturally, okay, so you're going to want to look at your own chart and your client's charts, okay? I naturally resonate or have harmony with the 4 and the 6. I have a ton of 4-6s in my life. Tons. But 2s and 5s, there's a dissonance there because I do have some of these. I do have some 2s and some 5s in throughout my chart, but it's not my profile. So I get it. I understand it. However, their process of projection is different than foundational information and trial and error. So the 4 likes to have information, a foundational information, and the 6 actually likes to go out and be a role model. But that all comes from the 1 and the 3. They need to have the first line and the third line in their lives so that they can get a solid foundation and see if that trial and error worked. So they can then go out and influence their network as a 4, and the 6 can go out and be the role model. Okay. So who needs whom? Right? That's what you're looking at. Who needs whom? And if there are moments where there is that space of dissonance, again, it's not about, oh, I can't work with those people, or I don't totally get those people, or allowing for them to quote unquote get under my skin. It's about seeing it. Oh, okay, well, there's dissonance here. Lots of times I don't work long-term with 2s and 5s because I have a different process. Okay. So now if we look at, there's 13 different objects can activate the harmonic. Okay. Remember this, that every one of these gates has a line. There's all of these different aspects that can pop up and have a resonance, dissonance, or harmony. Planets and nodes, right? Different line combinations. So, for example, the 40th gate, any of your gates that are activated have different experiences with the 37th gate, depending upon the variations of the gate, the planet, and the line. So can we go really super deep into this? Yes. Do you need to go really super deep with your clients? No. More information is confusing information. So you want to keep it at a level That you're not going, well, your 40th gate, blah, 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 has a dissonance or harmony. You just want to just be aware of it. And in the conversations with them, it will be revealed if it's a hotspot or not. Okay. You don't want to make it a hotspot. You want to just reveal that hotspot in a conversation, and then you can explain it mechanically so that they can then go, oh, okay, now I see it, I get it, and they can accept it or not in the relationship. Okay. Everything comes down to simplicity when you're talking human design, because this is a complex science. You cannot learn physics from a grade 10 physics book and call yourself a physicist. Okay? It's about experimentation, and it's about leaning in and learning, and then having conversations with your clients in a deeper way. Resonance, okay? Harmony and dissonance. Let's go through this one more time. So electromagnetic with dissonance can get very volatile. An electromagnetic with harmony, you have to find the harmony. Electromagnetic with resonance is barely felt. Okay, so if you have the 45.5 connected to the 21.5, and those two people come together, because that fifth line is there and available to both of them, they actually resonate in that energy field. Okay, they resonate in it because they understand that fifth line aspect. Okay, again, don't overcomplicate this at all. Go slow, walk through it, and just allow yourself that space and time to look at things through a different light. Okay, bring the simplicity in, have deep conversations with your clients so that they can really understand what's going on. Okay, so now if we were to look at the nodes, so the nodes always give the vehicle the direction in their life. So that's what nodes are. It's a trajectory. Compatibility through the nodes. So if there's compatibility here, it feels like they're moving along the same path. Okay. Does not give you the same hook, that same hookup as the profile, but it's not necessarily incorrect either. So look at the lines of the node. See if you're on the same path. Okay. If you are in different environments or you see different people, it's okay. It's just to notice this in the relationship. Now, how do you understand this? Go back to the business modules and where I talk about who are you selling to along your trajectory, how are you marketing to them? You'll understand that at a deeper level. Okay. The other space that you want to be able to look at is the throat center. Because the throat center is so complicated, it's very important to look at the throat center, the communication, the gates, the channels. In a connection, the way we communicate can be altered. So is the throat center connected through dominance, compromise? Is there actually a companionship there? Where is a relationship's voice coming from, and what is being imposed upon the other? This is what you want to look at, because there's different activations here. So the gates of aloneness, the gates of provocation, the gates of deafness, the gates of primary action. It's very important to look at the throat center, the communication, all of these different gates. Why? Because if we don't understand the ability to recognize, so here's the thing. I have provocation in my channel or in my design. My husband does not. So I provoke his spirit. When we're in conversation, that's just naturally what happens. I'm provoking his spirit. Okay. Now, that 39th gate not only has, that's what I have in my design, not only has provocation, but he actually has the 43 and the 23. Guess what? There's deafness there. So there's times where there's provocation happening in my communication, and guess what? He's not hearing it. He's not hearing it because he can't hear it. As a 43, the understanding and the aha moment has to come internally through a vibration and a frequency prior to him really understanding the provocation. Okay. Again, all nuances that you want to be very aware of. There's action gates in the throat center. So go back to the module that talks about the throat. Because the throat has 11 different aspects to it. Okay. So if there's primary action, I have this in my design. I have 2 of these gates. I am always in action. Always. I'm always moving. There's always momentum. He doesn't have any. He has none. And he operates from his heart. So guess what? There's moments where the heart center needs to rest because he has willpower as his decision making, but it needs to rest. Where me, I am in motion and creativeness, such a huge part of my day, but that's not who he is. And it's about understanding that's how he moves through life. Okay. So here are a few difficult channels with electromagnetics, just so that you're aware of it. Okay. The 2145, who's in charge? Now, the other thing is, there's also a really good aspect to this because the 2145 can come together in business and absolutely rock it. Okay. They can make a shit ton of money, lots of money. Okay. The 35 and the 36, emotional highs and lows. The 5 and the 15, different flows. The 28 and the 38, this pressurized opposition, fighter, risk taker, game player. So there's always this, who's risk, who's fighting. Now, again, nothing, absolutely nothing this is just so that you can see, okay, so that you can see that there are different aspects just for your awareness and your client's awareness. Fixing, again, exaltations and detriments. So if someone gives you an exaltation or someone gives you a detriment in the relationship, just notice them and go into the conversation of it. Okay, just go into the conversation of it. You don't have to go deep into the mechanical piece of it. But if you hear it in a conversation, right? If they're constantly saying, this triggers me, or I feel really good about this in our relationship, now all of a sudden you can look at the detriments, you can look at the exaltations, you can have a mechanical view of it, and you can reaffirm with them it is correct and give them the rationale and the reasonings. But don't go deep into this with your clients unless the conversation takes you there. Okay? Unless the conversation takes you there. You can, ask some pinpointed questions around this, right? Are there times where, this upsets you? And if they say no, leave it alone. Okay? And if they say, well, why do you ask? Well, let's have a conversation around, for example, the 28 and the 38. Maybe there's an exaltation or a detriment there, and it's also a difficult electromagnetic. Now, all of a sudden, we have a conversation around, do you feel like you're losing your individuality in the relationship? Yes. Okay, now let's explore that. Okay? So always remember that when you are taking a look at relationships, this is not a forecast. It's an education. You always want to make sure that you do individual readings first, or sessions or analysis first. Stay on the surface. Too much detail confuses your client. Now, of course, you can touch on the hot buttons, but do it in a conversational way. Don't say, well, you have this, you have that, you have this, you have that. So blah, 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 blah. Get them to tell you their situation. Get them to talk about their situation, because now all of a sudden we can talk about the hot buttons. We can talk about the good connections, And what's going to happen is that there's this deeper acceptance in it all. Okay. So when you're looking at this, what you want to do, understand type, strategy, authority, always. Centers, emotional or unemotional. Then you want to go into the relationship rhyme. Are there children? Because if there are children, I want you to know that there is a family penta. So this begins to shift. If the parents are outside in the relationship, if they, say the two of them go to a movie together, or they go for supper together, but when they come home and they're immersed in their children's energy field, it's going to look different. It's a family penta. You want to know if there's splits or not. So circuitry, you go through all of the circuitry, understand, is it dominance, companionship, compromise, electromagnetic? What's the profile? What's the nodes? Do you notice if there's dissonance, harmony, or resonance? What's the throat center doing? And are there any fixings of dissonance? The exaltations or detriments, okay? Now I am giving you a 3-month learning in like just a few moments. Just a few minutes here, okay? So I want you to understand that there's complexity. Just lean in, and really just use the summary here. So when you're doing a partnership chart, just look at the summary. What type are they? Okay, well, maybe you have a manifestor and a generator. That's what my relationship is. Now, I'm a manifesting generator, but same thing. Same but not. So as a manifestor, he has a very closed and repelling aura. Guess what? He doesn't actually have any of the manifestor channels. He actually has only projected channels. So it's a softer energy field. It's a softer energy field because his energy runs through the G center. And it's all around the love aspect, okay? Now, the other thing is that as a manifesting generator, I can never, ever actually envelop his energy field. It's impossible because he's closed and he's repelling. So there's times where he feels alone and that I can't get in. I can only support him and hold him in his bubble and listen to him, and that's all I can do. That's all I can do. So maybe you have a projector and a manifestor. I know that relationship as well. And the exact same thing is taking place. However, again, it's about understanding it. That penetrating aura can't penetrate into that closed and repelling aura. It just can't. Those manifestors are in a bubble. So they don't understand, oh, how do I attach into this? What goes on here? And generator to generator, they're both enveloping each other, feels very comfortable. Projector to generator, those two as well, one absorbs, one envelops. It's a very comfortable relationship. Reflectors and manifestors, because they both have these auras that one's like Teflon and one is repelling. So it's like there's this deeper connection in the unconnection. So it's all very interesting. All right, friend, now we're going to go into some practical examples so that you can hone your skills a little more. So here we have a quad split example. We have a generator and a reflector. So right away, what you want to really understand is that the generator is trying to envelop something that's super slippery. That's what the reflector is. They're super slippery. They're designed to not absorb anything, but allow it to just flow off their back. Okay, flow off their energy field. Now you want to look, oh, well, guess what? They're an 8 and 1. They're supposed to have some fun. Let's look at where that fun is going to take us. Well, it's going to take us down to the root center. So what's the fun? imagination, and moving into new experiences together. Okay, moving into new experiences together, and also being kind of ambitious. As a couple, they're quite ambitious. Okay, we have the 54 and the 54. Now, the 60 is all about restraint. How do we just slow it down so that we can organize the chaos, okay? The new experiences. So they're also emotional, okay? And that emotionality could get pressured to hurry. However, the emotionality of it, once you bring that to your couple's attention, now you understand, okay, things take time. So slow it down, relax into it, get some clarity in the relationship. There's no truth in the now. Just get some clarity in the relationship. Dominance channels. So we have the quad split who thinks abstractly. So this is what the generator does. Okay, this is what the generator does, is thinks abstractly. So the reflector is going to just know that about them. They're going to think in stories. So once the reflector gets really good at telling stories so that other person can think in stories, now you got a really good relationship. Compromise. Okay, this is where, again, the hotspots can be in the relationship when there's compromise. So the 2750. What's happening here, right? Channel preservation. The quad split, okay? Let's just do this. Quad split. They actually have the channel preservation. So it's all about their nurturing, how they nurture, how they are preserving the wealth, the home, the education, whatever it is, whatever they are preserving, it's about them preserving it. Now, the reflector has to compromise because they may feel like they want to take responsibility for some things because that's what the 50 wants to do. It's this cauldron. It has deep, deep, deep wisdom in it. And at times they might want to try to take responsibility, but actually that is the role of the generator, to take responsibility and preserve whatever it is in the relationship. Maybe it's, again, the house. Again, I'm going tribal. I'm going materialism because that's what the tribe wants to preserve. Okay. So it'll be their parenting style. It'll be their disciplinary style with the family. Okay. It's their laws instead of the reflector's laws. Channel community. Again, now the reflector might feel very compromised here because it's all about this person's bargains, right? So the generator is always doing, it's all about their bargains. So it's about their contracts, okay? It's about how are they going to deny or deliver to the tribe? It's all about their way and their traditions versus the reflector. And then we have the alpha, the leadership. So it's all about their leadership style, how they are going to move the family forward. So the reflector can feel very compromised in this. And now you might go, but Leann, the reflector feels compromised all the time. Yes, they do all the time. Okay. They always feel compromised. And then the channel of rhythm, this is an electromagnetic. So it's always this push-pull around whose flow is it going to be anyway? Whose flow? Remember, this is one of the ones that was more difficult. Okay. So I will show you some more here. We'll just move through these. Let's take a look at the profile actually before we move on. So we have 1, 4, 6, 2. Here's what is interesting is that the 6th line always lives that tripartite stage. So the first 30 years, they really operate like a third line. So here's what's really interesting is the 1 and the 4 have resonance, right? The 2 and harmony. The 2 and the 5 have harmony, and the 3 and the 6 have harmony. However, there's no harmony here between the profiles of these two people. This is actually has a lot of dissonance, as the 1 doesn't resonate or have harmony, with the 2, the 4 with the 2, the 1 with the 6, or the 4 with the 6. So there's this dissonance that's happening there. So again, the relationship operates, they're together. However, it doesn't feel as smooth as it could if they had harmony or resonance. Okay. So what is the profile? The profile is the public role. So the 1 and the 4, this person is very, very concerned with having the information and then being able to influence their network. The 6-2 is really into leadership, but it's also very aloof. And the 2 is natural and hermit. So they are on 2 different quote unquote life paths completely, but they can still come together and have fun. Now, I want you to also look at this triple split definition. So not only are they having fun in the root center, but where people can come in and where they go out to seek information or seek new experiences is in the split. So if we see here, the 43 and the 56 would bring that split, a portion of it, together. So they're looking for these moments of breakthrough where they can have these individual breakthroughs. Or also, they really love storytelling. So the 2 of them as a couple might really enjoy going to the movies together, going to theater together. Maybe they enjoy going to workshops together to have that breakthrough and that aha moment. Okay. And then we have this island of energy. So we had this island of energy, and now we have this island of energy, but it is split off from this island of energy. Hold on. Sorry about that. There is a glitch in the Jovian archive body graph software where you move your mouse too fast and it shuts down. So I apologize for that. All right. So now if we were to take a look at this island of energy, what they're looking for is this 22, this gate of silence, this fear of silence, the gate of grace. So this couple might really, really love romance and romantic music and poetry, and that might be the spaces where they go to have some breakthrough and hear different stories. So maybe they go into bookstores where they have book signings or that kind of stuff. Okay. So again, different layers here. So now you just talk to them about all of these different aspects. And as you're having the conversation, they will lead you into the different aspects that they are either really loving about the relationship or they're really not enjoying about the relationship. So it's never just about one simplicity. It's not about, quote unquote, telling them the mechanics. It truly is about understanding who they are as a couple. Now, if we look at their profiles or their nodal configuration, we have, again, 4, 6, 1, 3. Okay, so the 1 feels as though there is resonance to the 4, and the 6 has a resonance to the 3. So they will have this trajectory in life that feels a little bit more comfortable. There's more harmony there than there is dissonance in the profile. So even though they show up differently as these 2 different public roles, their movement in life feels very resonant. Now, these particular people do have children, so we can look at that in the family penta, but this configuration really is how they got together and when they are together as a couple doing different things in their lives versus doing it as a family, because once we get to the family, there's a little bit of difference there. All right, now let's just take a look at the throat center. And if we were to take a look at the throat center, so the quad split example, so the generator has actually only one way that it converses, and that is through influence. That's through the 31st gate. That is how this human actually has a conversation with others, and it's always around leadership. It's always this influential voice that has these conversations, and it takes over a language of I lead. There's authority there. There is powerlessness there if it hands over its authority to the outside world. And a lot of its language is things like, what do you think? Do you identify with that? Let me show you a pattern. Let me talk to you about how I can lead you out of this pattern. You might be doubtful about things, but so you want to take all the language from the logical collective, and that's how this person speaks. Now let's take a look at the reflector energy. Quite different. Why? Because I'm going to show you this first. The 7 and the 31, they're going to feel compromised here. The reflectors' alpha energy, leadership energy, is always compromised by the generator and their ability to lead and influence. So the voice of the reflector is very individual. That's a totally different language, okay? Because this is empowering language. What do you know? Oh, what are you hearing? Because the individual is very acoustic. Does that resonate to you? Because they're tuning into the frequency. Are you tuned into what I'm saying? How does that sound? Oh, is that music to your ears? So this human being speaks a lot in acoustics and empowerment and expressing that inspirational inner truth. And what you'll notice here as well is that 12 is all about this acoustic tonality. The 12 always has a different tone to it. So this is where they act. There's either caution or abandon. Okay. The 8 is all about certainty or uncertainty. It says, I can. The 23 has a lot to do with I know. So it's insists or desists. So you'll notice that this human being probably says, I know a lot. I know. And that might totally drive their partner crazy, because the logical aspect is not about knowing. It's about actually seeing patterns and identifying patterns. And then we can take it one step further, and we can take a look at the exaltations and the detriments. What you'll notice here is that the reflector doesn't get any of that. The reflector has all of this compromise going on, and the generator actually gets some of the dissonance. So the 63.1 is in a dissonant phase. So what's going to happen when they come together, this composure, it might be like this movement into this tendency in achievement to immediately seek new goals at the risk of destabilizing what has already been accomplished. So how do I want to say? Maybe not ever closing off a cycle properly. Maybe not closing off a cycle properly, even though they have the 42 and they're actually designed to close off cycles. They're designed to grow in cycles. What they might do in the 61 or 63.1 in this detrimental phase is they might jump from one thing to another and not actually close it off properly, always seeking new goals. Okay, so do you see this as an example? So if you choose to jump into any of my mentoring, we can go over things like this so that you can get a deeper understanding of it. All right. Thanks, friends. Have fun.